Alright guys, today we're going to be looking at the first section for chapter 13. So our learning goal today is to classify special pairs of angles. Now, what special pairs of angles are looking at pairs of angles, two or more, that are going to have certain qualities to them. So the first one that we're looking at is complementary angles. Now, complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. For example, a complementary angle to a 30-degree angle would be a 60-degree angle because 30 and 60 add up to 90. The next definition for today is supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are two angles who add up to 180. So that would be 100 degrees and 80 degrees, two separate angles that add up to 180 total. Now, when the supplementary angles are adjacent angles, they're going to form a straight line, just like what you see right here. So you have your first angle A and your second angle B. They're adjacent, right next to each other, and they have that straight line. And those two angles will add up to 180 degrees, which makes them supplementary. So this may be 100, and this is going to be 80. And the last definition that we have are adjacent angles. And like I said before, adjacent meaning right next to each other. So we have one angle, CAB, and angle BAD. They're right next to each other, angle 1 and 2, and they share that common side of BA. So they are adjacent, right next to each other. One more definition that I want to look at is vertical angles. And vertical angles are a pair of opposite angles that are formed when two lines intersect at one point. So our intersecting point is right here. Now you have four angles that are made by those two lines, angle 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you look at angles 1 and 3, they're actually going to be the same measurement. So if we said, for instance, angle 1, and I'm just making this up right now, then angle 1 is 120 degrees, then angle 3 is actually going to be the same measurement. 1 and 3 are vertical angles, and vertical angles are equal. They have the same measurement. Then to figure out what angle 2 is, we can see that 1 and 2 are adjacent angles and supplementary. So we would figure out what angle 2 is by doing 180 minus 120. Now that's going to give us the measure of angle 2. What do you think that would be? Well, 180 minus 20, that's actually going to give us 60 degrees. So angle 2 is going to be 60, and like I said, 2 and 4 are vertical angles, which means that they are indeed going to be equal. So we can go ahead and determine that angle 4 is also 60 degrees. Let's try something. So if we're looking at number 1, we know that these angles are 20 and 80 degrees. How can we determine if they're complementary, supplementary, or neither? Well, all you have to do is add them together. So angle 1 is 20 and angle 2 is 80. 20 plus 80 is going to give us 100 degrees. Is that complementary, supplementary, or neither? Complementary, they add up to 90. Supplementary is 180. Neither is anything else. So 100 is going to be neither. What about 146 and 44? Well, 146 and 44 is actually going to add up to give us 190 degrees. So what would you call that? Complementary, supplementary, or neither? If it's 90, it's complementary. 180, supplementary. So once again, we have neither. You want to make sure that you're doing these in your calculator because it's really easy to start adding them in your head and assume that they're going to be 180 or 90. Because if we look at these two, they're both really close, but they are not quite 90 and 180. So make sure you're double checking in your calculator to get the right answer. Try number 3. Type that in your calculator and let me know what you get. So add them together and we get 90 degrees, which is going to give us a complementary angle. Okay, now looking at our next problem. Number 4. We need to identify a pair of adjacent and a pair of vertical angles in the photo of San Francisco. If you're looking at this picture, I know it's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to do my best here. But these are your lines right here. And so you have angle B is 180 degrees. This is angle B. Now you have D up here, DBY, and JBT. Okay? So if we're looking for a pair of adjacent angles, those angles are going to be, let's start with angle DBY. So that's this angle right here, DBY. What's an adjacent angle to DBY? So we're going to look right next to it. I'm going to pick this angle JBD. So adjacent would be angle JBD. Now look for vertical angles. I want you to fill that in on your own. Okay, so for part B, now we have to find the measurement of angle YBT. So we're going to be looking for the angle right here, YBT. So if we know that this is 80 degrees, these two are actually going to be adjacent supplementary angles, which means that they're going to add up to 180 degrees together. So angle 1 and 2, oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to erase that. Okay. So 180 degrees is equal to the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2. We know that angle 1 is 80 degrees, but we don't know the measure of angle 2. How would we solve for angle 2? Think about your algebra. So you're going to subtract 80. Whoop. And you're going to get 100 degrees equals angle 2, or angle YBT. Pretty cool, huh? So using that knowledge of complementary, supplementary, and vertical angles, we can figure out what all of them equal. Now remember, vertical angles are going to be right across from each other. So angle 80 is up here. We can figure out that right down here, this angle is also going to be 80 degrees. So if angle YBT is 100 degrees, then this angle is also 100 degrees. Now if we have this diagram, and we know that the measure of angle 5 is 58 degrees, how can we figure out the measure of the other angles? So this is 58 degrees. Now notice right here, this sign, what does that exactly mean? Complementary angles, it makes 90 degrees. So angle 1 and 5 are complementary. So if we know that 1 and 5 equals 90 degrees, and we know that 5 is 58 degrees, then we can subtract that from 90 to get the measure of angle 1 is going to be 32. Now use your knowledge of vertical angles. So angle 1 is going to be the same as 2, and angle 5 is going to be the same as 3. Then you can use your knowledge of supplementary angles to figure out what angle 4 is going to equal. Do that on your own. All right, so what I want you guys to do after you have figured out all the measures of the angles, if you turn the next page, you're going to see two more problems. Now you can see that number 6, our angles are adjacent supplementary, which means they're going to add up to 180. But number 7, we have vertical angles. Use your definitions from the first page and determine what is the value of x. So find the value of x. Then you need to find the unknown angle measures. So you have 2 steps here, step 1 and then step 2. Work with your partner to figure it out. Then you'll have the answers on the board for you. I'll put them up at the end of class. So take a minute, work through it, use your knowledge, and we'll check them at the end of class. All right, I know you guys can do this. Go ahead.